Okay, so let's continue our journey with the Spanish conquistadors and see where they are going to head next. So, our next conquistador is Hernan Cortes, and Cortes is from Spain, but he has actually been living in Cuba, in the Caribbean, for quite some time. So, right over here, you can see this is actually the island of Cuba. Havana, where he comes from, is a little bit cut off. But this is how Cortez is going to sail to the coast of Mexico. So, again, you guys can add these notes to your note sheet as we are going through. Feel free to pause this if you need to. So, Cortez is going to hear about this place called Tenochtitlan, which is right here. That's how you pronounce that, Tenochtitlan. And previous conquistadors had attempted to sort of find this area and had failed. So the natives had managed to actually shove him off or shove them off the conquistadors to hold them off, to keep them from conquering. And Cortez is convinced that he is the one, that he can actually figure out how to get past them and find that city of Tenochtitlan, which is Mexico City today. Okay, so you can see here how he is going to travel. He is going to go from Havana. He will sail right across this Yucatan Peninsula that sticks out here, and he stays right along the coast. So this is very common. Now we are seeing this is common practice. And then once he gets here, he still has to travel pretty considerable distance here because Mexico City is pretty much right here in the middle. So as he's searching for Tenochtitlan, obviously he's got a journey ahead of him. So he is going to take off from Havana with a couple of ships. He is going to have 600 men, 16 horses, and a handful of cannons with him. And so that's what he's actually going to be taking in as he goes. Once he lands, now you can see like all of these little cities that he actually touches on his route there. When he first lands, he is going to come across an Indian woman, and she actually knows how to speak Aztec, which is the language that the people speak there in Tenochtitlan, and she's going to learn Spanish very quickly, so she becomes his translator. And this is going to prove to be really important because as he is traveling closer and closer and sort of like learning more and more about the people here in Tenochtitlan, he stops in these villages and he sort of figures out that these people have been conquered by the Aztecs before. And so he forms alliances or deals with them. If he forms that alliance and, promises that he's going to help to overthrow the Aztecs, these people who have previously been conquered or attacked are more likely to actually join in. And that's what happens. So he starts out with 600 of his own men, but as he travels, he's going to add more and more natives who are actually going to help him. And I think the fact that he came across this translator, who they call Doña Marina, as she's going to help this because she's going to be able to convince these people way better than him trying to, translate their language that he doesn't speak. So she becomes key to that and making those huge alliances. Basically, what they learn is that Moctezuma, who is the leader there in Tenochtitlan, is so powerful because he has conquered these people along the way. So, as we are moving on and they continue to move inward towards the coast, they are going to hear stories there in Tenochtitlan about these pale-faced visitors who are heading towards them. Interestingly enough, there is apparently in Aztec history a god king who had vowed to return from the east. And that was the journey that Cortez and his men were, the area they were coming from. And so Moctezuma and the Aztec people are convinced that Cortez is actually this Aztec god king returning from this journey, which is just kind of crazy. Like, how could this have even happened? So he is super excited about this and the idea that this god king has returned and is coming to his village, and so he is going to send out some messengers that have some gifts. Included with these gifts are things like turquoise, feathers, other things that they had sort of, religious tokens, which of course a god king returning would recognize as being part of their religion. But the one thing that probably really got Cortez's interest was there was some relics that were made out of gold and silver. So Cortez, of course, doesn't care about the religious artifacts. He is not super thrilled with the turquoise or the feathers, whatever, big deal. But you got gold and silver? That means I'm headed in the right direction because I want to take those away from you. So once he arrives there in Tenochtitlan, Moctezuma, the ruler there, so you can see how to spell his name right there, Moctezuma is going to greet him with open arms, because obviously he's, super, super excited, thinks it's a god king, but of course that's not exactly how Cortez is going to play this. So he is going to make his way there, be welcomed with open arms. Once he arrives there, though, he is basically going to just treat them pretty much the same way the rest of the Spaniards have been teaching the native people. So once they arrive in the city, they see more gold and more treasure, and of course that's going to make them greedy. So they are going to basically try to steal it. And in doing so, and how they're going to do this is Cortez is going to imprison Moctezuma. So he's actually going to have the ruler locked up. And as he's locked up, Cortez is going to force him to sign over his land to the Spanish people. And so this is almost like one of those, well, now it's legal because it's on paper, even though they have two separate sets of laws from two different parts of the world. I mean, all these things feed into it, but it is kind of crazy that Cortez thought that this would just work and he would sign it over and that would be that. But he does. He forces him to sign it over. A new group of conquistadors heard about this journey and actually sort of followed behind Cortez. It's almost like one of those things where they're like, oh, we'll let them do the hard work first and then we'll show up at the end. When they arrived, it actually creates this huge chaotic battle fight thing. I don't even know what you would call it. It's like you don't even know who's fighting against who at this point. And so it was total confusion. Different Spanish groups are fighting. There's the Aztecs. There's some of those other native people from all of these cities. Everyone is all there in the same city and everyone's fighting. And who's fighting against who? I don't even think that they knew. In all of this chaos, the Aztecs do manage to drive the Spanish out of the city. More than half of the Spanish were killed in this. And Moctezuma, he actually gets killed in that. Cortez is going to come back later. He will capture the city and he destroys it, which on one hand, I feel like he was doing it out of spite. Like, okay, so I'll show you. I will just destroy your city. But if he's really trying to take it over, it seems like maybe he should have just left it and then he could have just lived there. But whatever, it is what it is. So this took a couple of years from the original time that he left in 1519. He is going to assault the city and take it over in 1521. So that's just to let you know, again, sort of that timeline that's going on. Later on, the Spanish will obviously rebuild a city there. It is Mexico City today, so that's built on the ruins of the ancient Tenochtitlan. Just like in the Caribbean, the people who were left behind that did not get killed when that city was destroyed, so many of them are going to die from smallpox, and the population is just going to diminish to nothing. And so that is definitely going to help out Hernan Cortez and his cause here, because if you manage to kill these people with diseases, it's less people that you have to bother to fight with later on.